Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's great pleasure to be here in Istanbul to speak about innovation. I know that the president of organization has been speaking about innovation gap of Turkey. I think this is a wonderful way to try to overcome that gap and to make it possible that Turkey as a nation is going to become more innovative. But we are speaking about innovation. What does it mean? Is there anyone in this room who is 100% sure that he knows or she knows what does it mean when we speak about innovation? What is innovation? That is a question which has asked quite seldom, and anyway, it's very important to understand what is the key content of this very important concept. I read a couple of years ago an article in the Harvard Business Review, and I found a very nice way to answer this question. Writer of this article put it in a different way. He was asking, what is the opposite of innovation? When I ask this, quite often people are saying stagnation, but that is not the right word. The opposite of innovation is imitation. And imitation is, as such, a wonderful tool to develop a company or create a competitive country in the global economy. Or it's a wonderful method for an individual as well, to do what others have been doing, learning from their mistakes, low risk, unfortunately, low return quite often as well. If you want to take an example, Japan, after the Second World War, that was a country using imitation. Made in Japan. We are, some of us, belonging to the generation that we remember very well this concept, made in Japan. That was based on the idea that Japan was very fast in imitating what others, more developed countries were doing, and they created competitiveness for Japan by doing that. Unfortunately, late 1980s, when Japan had fully utilized imitation opportunity and it should move to innovative phase, country was not able to do that. And that's why Japan has faced a long period of stagnation. When we are speaking about innovation, we are speaking about the future. How to predict what is going to happen next. I know that Turkish people are excited about football. How many of you were looking at or watching in TV World Cup games last summer? Quite many hands, almost all. What was the turning point in the World Cup? When I'm asking this, people are saying Germany against Brazil. You remember how Germans humiliated Brazil in the quarterfinal. But in my opinion, that was not the turning point. The turning point took place a bit earlier. I don't know if you remember when Germany was playing against Ghana. That was probably the second game for Germany, and they had to win that, or at least to play equal in order to be safe and to be qualified in the games. And everyone expected that Germany is going to win. First half 0-0, like it often happens with German team. And then in the beginning of the second term, Germany made a goal, and everyone expected game is over. Germany is going to win. But Then Ghana made a goal, made another goal, and it was very close to make a third one. And the German coach was trying to imagine what to do next, how to turn the game in a way that Germany is able to survive. He took first Schweinsteiger in, and a minute later, a player who was not the fastest, not the youngest, not the best talent, qualified player as far as technical skills are concerned. Actually, he was the oldest one in his team, maybe slowest one as well. His name is Miroslav Klose. And do you remember what happened 50 seconds later? He made a goal. It was corner, and suddenly he was alone, able to touch the ball, and the game was even, and Germany was saved. What was the key talent, or the key reason why Klose was able to score? He was exactly in the right time, in the right place. He was not where other players were, but he was where the ball is going to be, and was going to be. And that is the secrecy of innovation. We are not speaking about what others are doing. We are not trying to analyze how to compete with other individuals, other companies, or other nations with the existing rules. But we are trying to expect what is the next big thing and to prepare ourselves in the best possible way for that. And this is the way how big success stories in business are done. This is the way how countries have been able to survive and succeed. And this is a good rule for individuals as well. Try to be where the ball is going to be, not where it is just now. I'm going to speak about education and innovation. That is a request which comes quite often because Finland is known as a country which has a high-quality education system. In PISA rankings, Finland has been number one, and it is still close to the top. The question is, what is the historical background of educational strengths of Finland? One critical thing is historical legacy. We had a statesman in the middle of 19th century, Snellman was his name, and he made it clear that one day Finland, that time part of Russia, one day Finland is going to be independent. But we cannot become independent as a small nation by using force. We have to use some other qualifications. And his famous saying was, the strength of a small nation lies in its intellectual capacity. And I think this has been guiding Finland since the middle of 19th century. We have understood that we are northern country, small country. We have rather limited physical resources, but there are no limits for human capacities to grow. There are no limits for intellectual capacity to grow. And that's why education has been, and it is still, in the core of the Finnish competitiveness strategy. But there are other legacies as well, very exciting ones. Already when Finland was part of Sweden before 1809, we made some incentives. That word was not used in that time, in the middle of 18th century. But we had a very nice incentive how to promote reading and writing skills among citizens. Can you imagine? In Finland, you couldn't be married. You didn't get license to be married if you couldn't show that you were able to read and write. And that was not only for men, but that was also for female citizens. All citizens, in order to have license to be married, had to be able to show fundamental things in reading and writing. And that took place already 200-300 years ago. Third legacy, which was very important as well. In a small, rather poor country, it was very important to understand that by investing in education, you were able to give your children the best opportunity for social mobility. If you want to get rich or richer, well-to-do, if you wanted to go up on the social ranking, education was the best method to do that. That is the historical legacy of Finland, and it's still there. It's still having an impact in Finland. We still believe that education is the greatest asset for a small country to become developed and to become competitive. After the Second World War, education system was integrated into the industrialization of Finland. I was born in 1954, 60 years ago. 60 years ago, Finland was an agricultural country. Roughly half of the population was employed by agriculture and forestry. But we wanted to become industrialized. And that took place rapidly. And education, again, played a critical role in that, providing skills and talents for industrial companies and enterprises, and also creating, through universities, an opportunity for new industries to become technologically developed. But that was more like reactive mode. Education was in a reactive mode when Finland was industrialized. But in 1970s, or in the middle of 70s, Finland recognized that now industrialization is more or less done. Now we have to think about the next big thing. And we came to the conclusion that the next big thing is going to be technological development, high-tech. Finland wanted to become a high-tech country. And that decision, more or less, strategic choice was made late 1970s, and execution started early 1980s. And now education started to play a proactive role, because we understood that through education we are able to provide for the nation and companies assets and skills and talents which will create opportunities for new high-tech companies to be established, or companies having high-tech elements to grow. And that's worked well. And actually Finland was able to expand its university network. And what was very important, early 1980s, we made it possible that universities were able to collaborate with companies. Until early 80s, that was not allowed, or that was very limited. But then we opened the door for collaboration between business and universities. And that made it possible that both universities started to grow and be developed, but that gave a lot of assets for companies as well. And then we created global talents. We created talents which were needed in the global community. That actually was working already earlier. I have to tell you a nice story. What kind of role education can play in providing future skills and talents. I was a scout in my local home community, rural Finland, in 1960s, in the middle of 1960s. We had a competition and we had to send a message or letter to a local person who had left and moved abroad. And we found that there is a nice guy who left recently our community and moved to Australia. We sent a letter or I signed that in the age of 12. And then, maybe a month later, I got a reply. He sent a set of cards from Australia, and the last one was empty. And there was room for a message. I still remember that message word by word. That message in Finnish was, "Lukekaa englantia, pojat, se kannattaa." Read English, boys, that pays back. And nothing else. Can you imagine what kind of message that was? In the middle of 1960s, we have no idea, young guys in a rural Finland, we didn't have any idea that English language will play such an important role in our lives. But that guy understood that. He sent a message. And luckily, our schools were providing us those capacities already in 1960s. In spite of the fact that most of the students never expected that they are going to use those languages and language capacities in their life. That is the role of education in the innovation system, to create capacities that are not yet needed. They are this closet type of things, or in this country you can speak about Arda, I think. Arda is probably even more famous than Klose. So Arda type of things, to move where the ball is going to be, not to move where the ball is, but where the ball is going to be. And this is the role of education. That's why educational targets, objectives, should be in the future. Next question. This technology miracle of Finland is over. Those capacities created in 1990s are not anymore as valid as they were 20 years ago. My question is, what is the next big thing to happen? I have already grandchildren, 2, 3, and 4 years old boys. What is my message for them? The message is, the next big thing is digital age. Everything is going to be digital. And it is going to be as massive transformation as moving from agrarian into industrial. Now it's going to happen maybe even faster. We have estimations in Finland that within the next 20 years, 1/3 of the existing jobs will disappear. In the US, they have made a calculation that 50% of the existing jobs will disappear within the next 20 years. It sounds terrible. People are worried about the future. But it's exactly what happened for my generation in Finland in 1960s and 70s, when agricultural production went down or employment in agriculture went down and other sectors were growing. This is exactly the same. It's painful, but it's necessary, and it's part of the progress. I hope that if you have time, read a book called The Second Machine Age. It's written by 2 MIT professors, Briefieldson and McAfee. This is a wonderful book about the history of industrial development and the potential of the next big thing, second machine age. The first machine age took place when we were going beyond the physical power of a man and animals. Steam engine, railways, cars, electricity. All of these inventions and innovations on the top of them were able to provide us huge assets to go beyond our physical limitations. And a lot of improvement in the productivity and wealth of nations were able to achieve thanks to second machine age inventions and innovations. This new phase, second machine age, will be based on the internet, on mobile technologies, big data, sensor technologies, nanotechnology. All these wonderful things are going to change the world in a dramatic way. And now we are going to go beyond our brain power. We are going to go beyond our brain power. And that is going to be at least as dramatic revolution as the first industrial revolution with physical technologies. Quite often, we believe that we are already there. We have the feeling that we already have all these wonderful devices, mobile phones, PCs, iPads, and all kinds of things. And we have a lot of digital services already available. I have in my pocket this one. This is a mobile phone or smartphone. Recently, in the United States, they made an analysis what we are doing with these devices, how we use time with smartphones. And I was surprised when I saw the statistics. And I think you are going to be surprised when I tell you how we really use these devices. Application number one is gaming. 43% of time is spent for digital games. So, number two, social networking, 26%. 10% of time is spent for music and other type of entertainment. 43, 26, 10. Then the rest is divided with all kind of minor things. What are these devices? These are entertainment tools. And they are entertainment tools because entertainment-driven things are easy to be digitalized. Ecosystem requirement is simple. You connect service provider, content holder, and final user, end user, together like Steve Jobs did. And that it's there. Very little other ecosystem requirements are there. But this is not yet digital world. This is the early phase of that kind of change. And capacities are there. So we are not anymore facing that much technological challenge, but we are facing much more ecosystem challenge. How to change our social structures, regulatory environment, taxation systems, management skills and talents. All kinds of changes have to take place in order to get maximum out of these technologies. If you want to understand what I mean, read the history of railways. Especially American railway systems history is a wonderful story, how technology is interacting with other sectors. Railway business itself was not a great success story in the longer period of history. 5,000 companies were created in America for railway construction. Only a handful of them were profitable. But if you ask me, if these companies were doing revolution, the answer is absolutely. But that revolution did not happen in the railway system itself, but it happened when oil industry, steel industry, agriculture and food processing, and all other industries were able to integrate railway systems into their business models. So the history of railways is more history of changes in other sectors and interaction between railway system, other businesses, and whole society than anything else. Even our financial institutions and many financial processes were created by a railway system. Or timing. Americans divided their country into time zones, and they took into the use that kind of system, not because of great innovations, but because of railways. Railway system required that kind of capacity. Before that, there were a lot of local times, and the whole system was not able to meet the requirements of the railway system. This is what we are going to face now. We are going to see digitalization to change our societies in a very profound way. Companies will be changed, governments will be changed, our way of life is going to be changed in a massive way. But schools will be changed as well. Schools are going to play a big role, and the education system is going to play a big role when providing us skills and talents needed, but at the same time, schools have to be changed. Education system has to be changed. I was asked this morning here in Istanbul, what can we do in Turkey that we can have the same kind of education system like you have in Finland, which is famous because of these PISA rankings? My recommendation for you is, don't copy the Finnish system. Don't imitate what Finland is doing, because that system is last generation, existing generation system. Invest for the future education system. We have the same challenge in Finland as well. We have to understand that schools have to be changed in a dramatic way. I will tell you a minor story, what kind of drivers of change we are facing, and how difficult sometimes it is to make even very practical and easy changes in the education system. When I was at school, and even next generation of Finns, in the high schools, girls learned foreign languages, especially English, much faster than boys, and much better. They were commanding foreign languages much better than boys. That was a rule. Boys were lagging behind for many reasons. But a year ago, roughly, a study was published in Finland saying, now high school-aged boys are much better in English than girls. Surprising news. And when it was asked why that is happening, can you imagine why boys are now better than girls suddenly? Because they are playing digital games. They are learning by playing. They are learning by using informal method of learning. I have met a lot of Finnish education authorities since that, and when we had discussed about this, I have asked, what are you going to do? And what is this message for you? I'm a bit critical now, but I'm saying, what I hear is, this is nice to know. Nice to know that informal education is stronger than and more effective than formal education at schools. The right call is, what can we do with the schools and school system in order to get informal education and training experiences to be integrated rapidly into our schools? Why there is going to be a revolution at schools? Because of two reasons. First reason is that in today's school, all the information in the world, more or less, is available for all. If Negroponte's wish is going to be executed, it means that all children in the world have access to all information we have generated during the history. It's something extraordinary. It's going to change the whole challenge of the education completely when that is going to happen. And it's already happening. We can say that in many parts of the world it has already happened. So the critical thing at school is not anymore how to educate certain technicalities, certain basic fundamental requirements for the society, but how to educate children to take maximum out of that information available in the world. The role of the teacher is going to be changed in a dramatic way. But maybe as important, or even more important, is that the whole standard of school is going to be changed. Because the existing schools are based on standardized teaching, standardized learning. The whole idea is that everyone is having equal responsibilities, equal opportunities to learn, the same kind of teaching method is used for all, and results have to be the same. If not, the risk of dropping out is there. But we know, especially we who have children, we know that children are all different. We are learning in different ways. Our capacities are different. But the standardized school system is not very good in recognizing those differences and creating motivation on the top of that. But now, when digital tools are coming and taken into the use in a massive way, we have capacity to personalize teaching and personalize learning, and to create individual programs, individual incentives as well, and measurements as well for children. This is going to be extremely radical change, and I believe that it is going to improve the quality of schools in a massive way if and when used in a proper way. But it requires many changes in our mindsets. If you ask today in Finland, what is the key characteristic of a good school or good class? Do you know what is the answer? The size of the class. If the number of students or children is small, it's a good class, it's good teaching environment. If it's high, it's bad. And there is no evidence that it's like that. And we know that when using modern technologies, you can have a class of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people. Or in the same time, you have to be able to give extremely personalized training. Class size should be 1 or 2. And we have capacity to do that. But still we are characterizing and standardizing everything according to our historical experiences. We are playing where the ball is, but we are not moving where the ball is going to be. This is a great challenge for education. Finland is well prepared for the future, mainly because of one factor. And that is the greatest success factor in the Finnish education system. We have good teachers. All the teachers in Finland have got university degree. We are able to get best, most talented young people to become teachers. Profession of a teacher is highly respected in the Finnish society. I spent a lot of time in the United States, and I have to say, America is a great country in many respects, but they have made a failure, big mistake in their education system. And one of the fundamental problems is that they have too many bad schools, and they have the worst resources, teaching resources in those schools where the best resources are needed. And there is no digital future or digital society where only 70% or 60 or 70% of population have capacity to be involved. We have to empower people, and in order to empower people to become full citizens in the digital society, all of them have to have same kind of basic fundamental skills and talents. Reading and writing skills in the history, in today's world, they are much broader skills and talents needed. That's why schools have to be changed, and it's very important to understand in all countries that future school is not incremental improvement in the existing one, but it requires innovation, and we have to make breakthroughs. And what is good message for Turkey is that this digital technology and digital world is making us rather equal. All countries have roughly the same opportunities. Think about these mobile devices, for example. I was 15, 1969, when the first human being landed on the moon. You remember this moon landing model, Eagle. Eagle has landed. Eagle landed on the moon by using a computer. That was the most modern computer, huge investment made for that in 1969. The price tag was tens of millions of dollars, maybe hundreds in today's currency. Huge investment in the computing capacity. How much do you have to pay in order to get the same capacity today? 7 billion people in the world have that in their pockets. In the cheapest mobile device, you have the same computing capacity. My message is, developing countries do not fully understand what kind of assets they have in these devices. When I was working for Nokia, we tried to create, and actually we created, a good model teaching mathematics in the South African environment, where the problem is, like we have seen, where the problem is that there are no good teachers. Sometimes teachers cannot read and write. Mobile devices can play a big role. But do you know what was our biggest problem to get that South African application to be taken into the use? The most difficult thing was, it was too cheap. They didn't want to take into the use such a wonderful tool only because of the fact that it looked like too simple to be true. And I believe that this is one of the challenges. We have to learn to take more out of technologies, and that is a great challenge. My final comments are about how education system then can provide assets for innovative Turkey. What kind of role schools, elementary schools, vocational schools, and universities, high schools and universities can play in creating future for this country and more innovative environment? For the first, we need multidisciplinary talents. Sounds very technical, but it is not. Think about healthcare. We are spending in Finland 10% of our GDP in healthcare, in the United States 17%. And we all know that we don't have any more resources to spend like this in the future. Winston Churchill once said, "Gentlemen, we have run out of money, we have to think." I think we are exactly in that phase with our healthcare system. We are running out of money, now we have to think. And when thinking, we know that digital technology, digital revolution is going to provide us huge assets, huge improvement opportunities for healthcare sector. We can move from reactive mode into proactive mode. And we can do that with lower price, higher quality. Access to services will be there if we are clever enough to do that. Well, what is the fundamental problem? One fundamental problem is that we don't have electronic patient records. Information is not where it should be. And I know in many countries we have tried to solve this problem, but all of these attempts more or less have failed. And they have failed because of the fact that those who have to develop that capacity are too much technology-oriented or too little technology-oriented. Because the best ICT experts cannot do that. Because if you don't understand the healthcare system and its requirements, nothing is coming out. But the doctors and physicians and specialists in healthcare cannot do that, because without ICT understanding, ICT capacities, you cannot do that. But we still have education system which is siloed. Everything is siloed, and we are asking people to do things which are requiring multidisciplinary talents. I don't know how is it in Turkey, but in Finland and in Europe, we believe that, all right, we have many capacities required. Let's create a committee. Let's put room full of experts and then try to do that together. It's old-fashioned method. The right call is to create new skills and talents and to integrate capacities in a new way. That is a challenge for universities, vocational schools, but that has to be started already in the very early phase on the elementary education level. That is one asset that we can use in improving our capacity to innovate. Second important thing is that we need a lot of startup companies. And it's not only that governments need those, local governments want to have them, employment opportunities require that, but even big companies need a lot of startup companies around them. Because they are providing application opportunities which are impossible to be done by bigger companies. And again, universities especially can play a major role in creating that kind of startup environment, providing students having capacities an opportunity to create their own startup businesses. And that is flourishing in Finland now. A couple of weeks ago we had an event called Slush. That is the biggest startup event in Europe. More than 10,000 people attended that. And there are a lot of new ideas coming out of that community. And I believe that that is exactly what universities have to do. But again, already in the elementary schools, you have to start to identify those capacities young people have and to give them impulses and incentives to become entrepreneurs on the longer term in the future. And finally, leadership. It's very much about leadership. It's about leadership in companies, leadership in governments. Everywhere we need strategic leadership capacity. You all know Steve Jobs. Have you any idea what he invented? He didn't invent anything, not a single thing. But he was a great innovator. He was able to see, when he visited Xerox PARC, he was immediately able to see that these guys have developed everything I need. They have invented everything I need in order to create breakthroughs, in order to create wonderful new tools for consumers. And he was able to do that. And he was a strategic leader. He was able to put together these components in a new way. That is what we need in the private sector. We need good leaders in companies, innovative leaders who are able to take risk to create something new. But we need that kind of capacity in governments as well, because one thing is sure. I have seen life from the government side and company side. We need each other's. There is no good business future without good governments. And there is no good government if it's not able to integrate the best skills and talents of private sector into the governmental efforts. That's why that interdependence is so critical for the future. And finally, we need vision, visionary leaders. When going home, look at John F. Kennedy's speech in Houston, Texas, September 14th, 1962. He spoke about going to the moon. That was a wonderful speech. I have never seen such kind of strong message before or after, because he was able to set a target. And like he said, we want to go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it's difficult. And that is the way how innovation leadership takes place. Setting targets, guiding people to get through. And that kind of leadership we urgently need everywhere in the world. Thank you so much.
Mr. Aho, I would like to ask a few questions. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Very nice to meet with you. You know, we have a very innovative project in Turkey. It's called Fatih Project. And the government plans to give free tablets to the poor kids all around the country. We don't know what happened latest, but at least they think this kind of innovative things. And when you look around, I'm sure your kids or the children, they are playing with tablets and this kind of new tablets, iPhones, smartphones. What do you think the future of the education, how this kind of game playing affect to the education in the future?
I think technically they are going to give us wonderful tools to be used, because my grandchildren started to use these devices before they were able to speak. So they were able to use them before they started to speak. So the first communication method was through this kind of iPads. So they are wonderful technical tools, but I think it's very important to understand that they are only technical tools. In the core of teaching is still human being and human beings. It's a human connection. Teaching and learning is going to be in the future as well a human connection.
On this point, you know, the last few years, online education becomes very popular. Most of the universities in Ivy League or even in Turkey, they are opening online classes. What do you think about the future of the education? Do you think that it will be replace of face-to-face education?
Again, as I said, I think this is a great asset. We have not fully understood what kind of revolution we are now facing, because access to best courses, best content is there. But again, I don't believe that it is going to compensate fully physical meetings, physical presence. So we need combination of these two. But for sure, it means that door is open for high-level education for millions and millions of young people who have been excluded earlier.
And as the next Prime Minister, tomorrow Ahmet Davutoğlu, the Turkey's Prime Minister, is going to be in this stage. Do you have any advice for him, for the education? Or a message?
My message is that Turkey has one asset which is extraordinary for this country, and it is this young population. Educate this young population, boys and girls, rural and urban, as well as you can, and it's going to be the best guarantee that the future of this country is going to be good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.